Today, we're diving into the big, and I mean big, ideas from India's latest economic survey. It paints this fascinating and, frankly, pretty challenging new picture of the global economy. So let's get right into it.
You know, you could almost boil this entire analysis down to this one single statement from the survey's preface. It's a paradox, and it perfectly sets the stage for everything else we're going to talk about. A story of a nation doing incredibly well, butting up against a world that's, well, just not playing by the old rules anymore. And this image, I think, just nails it. You see India's economic engine here, ready to ship, deeply plugged into this global system of trade. But what happens when the very foundations of that system start to shift and crack? That's the core question this survey is trying to answer.
Okay, so let's really break this down. What exactly is this paradox? To get it, we really have to look at both sides of what the survey calls this collision. So first up, let's look at the domestic picture. And honestly, it's a blockbuster. We're talking about growth humming along at over 7%, inflation is under control, and you've got banks and companies with really strong, healthy balance sheets. And on top of all that, major agencies like S&P have upgraded India's credit rating for the first time in almost 2 decades. There's this real palpable sense of momentum. But then, bam, the collision. In spite of all those stellar fundamentals, the global system just isn't responding like it used to. The currency has been surprisingly unstable, capital isn't flowing in the way you'd expect, and the world is just full of more friction, things like penal tariffs. And all of this is making investors hesitant, creating this huge, frustrating disconnect between success at home and rewards from abroad. And this brings us to a really crucial point. This isn't just some temporary glitch in the system. The survey is arguing that the entire global playbook, it's been totally rewritten, and it's all being driven by a powerful new kind of logic.
And that new logic has a name: economic statecraft. We've basically entered a new era where countries are using their economic tools, trade, technology, finance, not just to grow and become more efficient, but as weapons, as tools for national security and strategic influence. Think about it. This means your choice of supplier is no longer just about cost. It's a geopolitical statement.
I love this slide because it just lays it all out so clearly, right? The before and the after. We've gone from a world of hyperglobalization where everyone was chasing efficiency and low costs, and being interconnected was seen as a good thing, a source of stability. Now we're in a world of geostrategic globalization where the obsession is resilience and security, and that same interdependence is now seen as a massive vulnerability.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. You can actually see it in the money. Look at these numbers for 2024. While global investment actually fell, it shot up in the US. And where did it go? Straight into those strategic sectors like AI and semiconductors. Capital isn't just chasing the highest return anymore. It's being guided by geopolitics.
So if that's the new reality, what does the future actually look like? Well, the survey doesn't give us one neat answer. Instead, it lays out 3 possible scenarios for the global economy. And spoiler alert, none of them look like a return to business as usual. And this is a pretty sobering outlook. The 2 most likely scenarios, managed disorder and disorderly breakdown, each have about a 40 to 45% chance. So the best case scenario here is still a world that's integrated but also really distrustful and volatile. The worst one sees trade being used as an outright weapon. So you're looking at a combined, 80 to 90% chance that the world is going to be a pretty frictional, disorderly place.
And that third most dangerous scenario, the systemic shock cascade? You might wonder what could trigger something that bad. Well, the survey points to risks that are kind of hiding in plain sight. Things like these massive leveraged bets being made on AI infrastructure, where huge sums are being moved off the books. A little hiccup there could send shockwaves through the entire global economy.
Okay, so in a world that's defined by all this disorder and risk, how is a country supposed to respond? The good news is the survey doesn't just diagnose the problem, it actually proposes a new way forward. And the strategy it lays out is this really fascinating evolution in thinking. It's not about going back to old-school import substitution, which was totally inward-looking. Instead, it's about moving from strategic resilience, which is basically the ability to take a punch, and evolving towards strategic indispensability, which is becoming so important that no one even wants to punch you in the first place. And that brings us to what might be the single most important concept in this whole survey: strategic indispensability. This is the ultimate goal in the new global playbook. It's about becoming such a critical, non-replaceable part of the global system that you not only protect yourself, but you actually gain real influence. The survey uses this really powerful metaphor to capture the immense challenge here. The marathon is the long-term goal, right? Becoming a developed high-income nation. But the sprint is the constant day-to-day need to react to shocks, to build resilience, to manage all the volatility in this new, messy world. The real trick is you have to do both at the same time. And that leaves us with this powerful final thought. The end game of this whole new strategy isn't just about GDP growth anymore. It's about achieving a totally new kind of power, influence without having to force it, by becoming so valuable that the rest of the world sees its own interests aligning with yours. In a fracturing world, that just might be the only sustainable way to win.